Hi, watch and be in the know.
AITA for staying with my boyfriend after cheating on him years ago, knowing he's still broken by it. Hi, Reddit. I never thought I'd post here, but lately I've been feeling like I'm drowning in my own guilt and confusion. This will be long, but I hope someone out there reads it and shares their perspective. I, 23F, have been with my boyfriend, 24M, for almost 7 years now. We met in high school when I was 16 and he was 17. I still remember the first time I saw him. He was sitting at the back of our biology class, chewing on his pencil, wearing a black hoodie that was 2 sizes too big. His hair always fell into his eyes, and he would shake it away every 2 seconds. He seemed shy, awkward, but there was something calming about him, like he was safe. Back then, I was this hyper, talkative, emotional girl everyone called dramatic. I cried easily, laughed loudly, and felt everything 10 times more intensely than others. People either adored me or found me annoying, but he just listened. When I asked him for help with chemistry, he stayed after school with me in the library for 3 hours, explaining each formula patiently until I understood. He started walking me home every day, even if it meant missing his bus and walking an extra 40 minutes back to his house. One rainy day, we shared my tiny pink umbrella. He held it above my head the whole time, arriving home soaked to the bone, and later texted me, "Worth it. Would do it again." When he finally asked me out, it was the gentlest thing. He said, "I don't want to just be your friend anymore. I want to be your person." My heart just burst. He was my first everything, my first kiss behind the gym after school, first boyfriend, first time holding hands walking down the street like real adults. First time falling asleep on the phone together, whispering goodnight. We dated through the end of high school, and I truly believed he was the one. But when I turned 19, things changed. I had just started working part-time at a wildlife rehabilitation center. I was struggling with my mental health, constant anxiety, racing thoughts, feeling like I wasn't really living but just floating outside my body watching life happen to me. I was tired all the time, losing weight without noticing, sleeping only 3 to 4 hours a night. My boyfriend noticed. He would bring me food, sit with me quietly when I couldn't speak, rub my back until I fell asleep. At work, there was a man named Rick, 30M at the time. Rick was tall, broad-shouldered, with rough hands from carpentry, and always smelled like sawdust and mint gum. He had an easy laugh, like nothing ever bothered him. Everyone liked him. He called me kiddo at first, but soon started saying things like, "You're smart as hell, you know that? Smarter than half the people here." Or, "You've got this wildness in you. Don't let anyone tame it." At first, I thought he was just being kind, but his compliments felt different. They made my chest tighten and my face flush. One evening, after closing, we were cleaning the owl enclosures together. The smell of straw, feathers, and rodent feed was thick in the humid air. My hands were shaking from exhaustion, and he reached out to steady me. I didn't pull away. That week, he kissed me behind the feed room door. The next week, we slept together. 3 times in total. I can't explain what I felt back then. It was like being possessed by a version of myself I didn't recognize. I felt powerful, wanted, reckless. But every time it ended, guilt slammed into me so hard I could barely breathe. Eventually, I confessed to my boyfriend. I couldn't look him in the eye. He sat on my bed, hands clasped between his knees, staring at the floor with tears dripping onto his jeans. He didn't scream. He didn't throw anything. He just whispered, "Why? Why wasn't I enough?" Then he got up and left. That month apart was the darkest time in my life. I stopped going to work. I couldn't eat. My roommate would come home to find me lying on the bathroom floor, staring at the ceiling for hours. I started therapy, where I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder and ADHD. My therapist told me I'd been having a depressive psychotic episode with suicidal thoughts. I genuinely believed everyone would be better off without me. During therapy, I learned that my entire childhood had been built around instability, fear of abandonment, and desperately clinging to anyone who gave me attention. Rick knew exactly what to say to make me feel seen. But that doesn't excuse what I did. I betrayed the one person who truly loved me. After a month, my boyfriend texted me. I can't sleep. I keep wondering if you're okay. I still love you. We met at a park. He looked thinner, exhausted, with dark circles under his eyes. When I started crying, he pulled me into his arms and just held me while I sobbed against his chest. We got back together, promising each other to heal and move forward. Fast forward 4 years. We're both in our final year of biology undergrad. I've been accepted into a marine ecology master's program, and for my thesis, I'll be spending a month in the Maldives studying coral reefs. It's a dream come true. But my boyfriend, he's terrified. My supervisor is a 32-year-old former Navy diver, extremely fit, confident, and well-known for being charismatic and funny. Whenever I mention him, I see my boyfriend's jaw clench, his eyes glaze over, like he's bracing for a punch. Lately, he's been having nightmares almost every week, dreams that I leave him for my supervisor, dreams that I drown and no one tells him, dreams that I simply disappear without saying goodbye. He wakes up in a panic, sweating, breathing ragged, whispering, "Please don't leave me. Please." I hold him and kiss his forehead, promising I never will. But I can see he doesn't fully believe me. When he tries to talk about his fears, I get defensive. I say things like, "Why can't you trust me after all this time?" Or I go silent, feeling like a monster. Later, I sit alone replaying everything in my head, realizing he just wants reassurance. He just wants to feel safe with me. But by then, he's already shut down, distant, retreating into himself. Yesterday, while feeding our bearded dragon crickets in its terrarium, he said quietly, "I love you so much. But I keep thinking you're going to leave." And I don't know how to stop thinking that. I just stood there, staring at the floor tiles, feeling like I had shattered something sacred and irreplaceable. I'm about to restart therapy to work on my emotional regulation and learn how to hold space for his pain instead of drowning in my own guilt. I've suggested therapy to him, but he grew up with strict Eastern European immigrant parents who taught him emotions are weakness. Therapy is for the crazy, and men must be stoic no matter what. He refuses to go. Sometimes I wonder if staying with him is selfish. Am I forcing him to relive his trauma every day by being here, even though I've never cheated again and never will? Would it be kinder to let him go so he doesn't spend his life waiting for the next betrayal? But then I imagine him alone in his apartment, hugging our lizard, thinking he was never enough to be loved forever. And my heart breaks all over again. Sparkles Reddit. Has anyone been in a situation like this, either as the one who betrayed or the one who was betrayed? How did you heal? Did therapy help? Did it ever get better? Please, before you scroll away, could you pause for a moment and share your thoughts, advice, or personal experiences? Even a sentence might help me understand how to become a better person and partner. Thank you so much for reading this far. By the way, I also want to share another story about a different girl I know, whose situation is similar but with a few important differences. I think her experience might show another side of this issue and help others reflect too. AITA for feeling humiliated and thinking of leaving my boyfriend after a camping trip? My boyfriend, 35M, and I, 31F, have been together for 3 years, living together for 1. We've known each other since high school. He was the lanky skater boy with shaggy hair, reeking of Axe spray and cheap mint gum. Back then, he'd flick paper balls at my head in math class and call me short stack because I'm barely 5 feet 1 inch. I'd roll my eyes and swat him away, secretly loving the attention in a world where I felt mostly invisible. When we reconnected in our late 20s, it felt like a rom-com. I was working weekends at a grocery store to pay off grad school loans after a messy breakup. He walked in wearing a paramedic uniform, hair cropped short, calm as he loaded an elderly woman onto a gurney. I asked if she'd be okay. He turned, squinted, then grinned wide. Short stack. Long time no see. Our second date still plays in my mind like a scene from Normal People. He grilled steak on his tiny balcony while lightning flickered across the distant prairie. The power went out, so he rummaged for half-burned candles in mismatched jars. We sat cross-legged on the living room floor, faces glowing orange in the dark, while he gently brushed hair from my face and asked about my dreams. I thought, this is it. The protector. The funny guy. The safe place I've always craved. But this weekend changed everything. We went camping with his friends, college buddies, and their girlfriends. I'd met them briefly at barbecues, but never spent full days together. I was excited. Work at the clinic had been brutal lately, with 12-hour shifts and elderly patients dying alone in sterile rooms. I wanted pine air, wood smoke, quiet mornings by a lake with coffee steaming in enamel mugs. He drove up early with Dave and Sam because I couldn't leave work until late Friday. Driving alone felt like therapy. The sunset smeared gold and pink across the wheat fields. At a gas station, I grabbed a lukewarm burrito and iced tea, watching a teenage couple argue over sour gummy worms, giggling in the candy aisle. I smiled to myself, thinking of him. Feeling lucky. I arrived at dusk. Their campfire flickered behind dark pines. Fleetwood Mac's Rhiannon played softly as I stepped out into the cool air. Everyone was gathered around the fire pit with beers and canned margaritas, lined up on a fold-out table. He sat slouched in a camp chair, hoodie pulled up, beer in hand, gesturing animatedly mid-story. When I walked up, he barely glanced at me, gave me a one-armed hug without standing, mumbled hey, then turned back to the group.
Nookies.
No, hey babe, you made it okay? Just nothing. I swallowed the sting, forced a smile, greeted everyone, and spent the next hour pitching my 10 alone in the fading light while he cracked open his third IPA and debated fishing gear with Sam. That night, tequila burned warm in my chest as we sat around the fire roasting marshmallows. The burnt sugar smell made me think of county fairs as a kid. He was tipsy by then, cheeks flushed pink, voice loud. Suddenly, he launched into a story about our hike last summer. Except, he twisted it into humiliation. According to him, I was sobbing hysterically, screaming his name, nearly peeing myself from fear. The truth? I took a wrong turn for 15 minutes, called his phone, and calmly found my way back. But the way he told it, I sounded like a clueless little girl needing a big, strong man to rescue her. Everyone laughed. Even the girls covered their mouths, giggling. I forced a tight smile, staring into the flames as hot shame crawled up my neck. Part of me wanted to shout, "That's not what happened." Another part whispered, "Don't ruin the vibe." But inside, something cracked. I remembered my dad making similar, funny stories about my mom at family gatherings, her smile never reaching her eyes. The next morning, sunlight pierced through our tent. He snored beside me, mouth open. I slipped out, washed my face with cold bottled water, boiled coffee on the propane stove. Mist hovered above the lake like silent ghosts. When he finally emerged, hair wild, he flopped into a chair, scrolling his phone. Before I could say good morning, he cracked open an IPA. It was 8:30 a.m. Mosquitoes swarmed everywhere, so I asked him to help set up the bug net over the food table. At first he helped, threading poles through mesh sleeves, swatting at bugs. But suddenly, with no warning, he started taking the entire net down. Confused, I unhooked a corner to help. Next thing I knew, he was balling it up into its nylon bag. "Wait, what are you doing?" I asked.
He didn't look at me.
"You took it down, so we're not using it." "What?" "I thought you were taking it down." "I was just helping." "Whatever," he snapped, shoving the bag into my hands with an eye roll. His friend Dave watched silently, sipping coffee. I felt my cheeks burn as he walked away to plan fishing with the guys. I set up the net alone, blinking back tears. That afternoon, I offered to cook sausages and potatoes over the fire. Cooking over coals always reminds me of my dad, his rough hands flicking ash from his beard, his gentle baritone teaching me how to build the perfect ember bed. I needed a long stick to shift logs safely, so I called over to Sam, gathering wood nearby. "Hey, can you grab me a stick to move these logs?" Suddenly, my boyfriend stormed over, eyes glassy from beer. In a mocking voice, he said, "I'm no idiot, but here." He grabbed the axe, squatted by the fire, and began jabbing the burning logs with its blade, sparks flying dangerously near my ankles. The group fell silent. This is the hot part of the fire, and this is the cooler part. You fucking got that. His pupils were blown wide from rage and alcohol. You fucking got that? He repeated louder. My ears roared with blood. Nobody moved.
Samo kvadlikendid mea stick.
I took it, voice trembling. Just so you know, Sam, I asked you for a stick. He jumped in and started calling me an idiot. My boyfriend's face turned dark red. He opened his mouth, but I cut him off softly. Don't. Just don't. He stormed off down the forest path, keys jangling. An hour later, I found him asleep in his car, empty beer cans rolling across the floorboards. I sat alone by the river, feet submerged in the icy current, tears streaming silently as dragonflies skimmed the surface. I felt so small, so tired. Part of me wanted to wade into that water and keep walking until I felt nothing at all. When he returned, he acted like nothing happened. Laughed with everyone, taught a girl how to cast a fishing rod, helped Dave pack away the grill. He didn't say a word to me until we packed up the next day. We drove home separately. The 2-hour drive felt endless. I kept replaying every moment. Was I overreacting? Was it really that bad? Why did I feel like I was losing my mind? When I got home, he greeted me flatly. Sorry I lost my temper. Just those 5 words, like he'd knocked over a glass of milk. I showered, scrubbing my skin raw, trying not to cry. Later, he sat on the edge of the bed, head in hands. We should talk, he said, then launched into how I mean to him. How I make him feel stupid in front of his friends. My chest tightened painfully. I reminded him exactly what he said, word for word. He sighed, rubbed his face, and said he'd been drunk and anxious, and regretted it as soon as he said it. But it's always the same pattern. He drinks too much. He lashes out, humiliates me. Later, he minimizes it or rewrites what happened. Then he gives a vague apology. I didn't mean it. I was anxious. I was drunk. He promises to change. Then it repeats. I want to believe people can change. But I've never felt so humiliated or disrespected. Another part of me remembers my mom, standing at the sink, furiously scrubbing pans while my dad ranted about how she talked down to him. How she nodded silently. How she stayed. I always promised myself I wouldn't become her.
But here I am.
Psychological reflection. When someone repeatedly humiliates you in front of others, rewrites events to avoid accountability, and minimizes your feelings, it's emotional abuse. Alcohol doesn't cause it. It just lowers the guardrails around their true patterns. The cycle of incident, apology, honeymoon, tension, incident is classic. A partner should be your safe place, not the reason you feel small and worthless. His behavior shows contempt, and contempt is the #1 predictor of relationship breakdown according to Gottman's research. You are not too sensitive. You are seeing clearly. Brain questions to consider. Do you feel safe sharing your feelings with him without being blamed? Does he take responsibility or always find ways to twist reality back onto you? Can you imagine years of this pattern, or do you want to break it now? I know it's hard to leave someone who feels like home, but healthy love doesn't feel like walking on eggshells. It feels like sitting by a campfire with someone who warms you, not burns you.